But you know what? There are people there that can figure that out.
They can already come.
Why? You're supporting it even more.
Next question.
Dr. Dante, you had your hand up, and gentleman over here.
I don't know, over the last 4 years in the U.S. Senate or in the U.S. House, with the Democratic Congress, for all those 4 years, I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember the Republicans walking out. I don't remember one time. And I believe at that time, the House was Democratic, the Senate was Democratic, and oh yes, we had a Democratic president. And those bills kept coming signing, those bills kept being signed. And if I remember correctly here, just in February, we had a deficit just for the month of February of over $233 billion. I don't know, when I had a job, if I would have walked out of my job, I would have been fired. Unfortunately, I don't see any way to fire the Democrats that have walked out of their job. But personally, if I was in an area where I had a Democratic senator, I would vote them out. I would do everything in my power to vote these people out. I do not like what's going on. I do not like what I see. I think it's terrible that you sit there and you talk about what you want, but you don't sit there and you do. It's just unbelievable to me. Why? Didn't you hear the people vote here in November? Aren't you folks listening to anybody?
Well, I thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. In the U.S. House of Representatives, no one walked out. It was in the United States Senate. They used what is their tool, the tool that they have to stop legislation, which they did. They stopped bill after bill after bill. Well, that's your opinion, but the point is, in this case, Democrats are stopping things that a lot of other people think, in their opinion, is a good thing. And they're using the only tool they have, just like the United States senators did when they filibustered and stopped every bill that was moving forward. So, no, they didn't walk out, but they used the tool available to them. Now, as far as the Indiana State Senate is concerned, every Democrat member of the Senate is there and has been voting every day. We have continued to operate, and we will continue to operate. We will continue to pass legislation so that when the Democrats in the House do come back and they have stopped some of these most egregious things, that we will then move forward and we will pass the budget, which is the #1 thing that we have to do. And the legislature will do its job. And we in the Senate, by the way, have not missed a day. We are there every day, and we have operated just as we normally would. I just think it's an erroneous accusation that the Democrats in the House are not doing their job, because they're representing the people that have elected them.
In another state.
They are representing the people who elected them to stop some of this legislation. They are not participating in the process because they're trying to stop legislation
That's the key. They're not even, they're trying to stop something. They were elected to represent the people in the state of Indiana, not in Illinois.
They were elected by their district members, elected, and they're representing the views of those people. And I think representing a good number of people who did not elect a Republican majority to create right-to-work legislation and to take away the rights, the bargaining rights of union members. I don't believe that was part of the agenda. It was not anything that I heard campaigned on, but they are stopping that. Now, if you disagree with it, disagree with it, but they're doing nothing different than what the U.S. Senate Republicans did when they filibustered.
Ask you a question before you say
Oh,
that.
sure.
30 years, I think I've got it over on on age. I want to know this fair taxes year, how come I'm paying more taxes this year than I ever did and why? That's a question I'd like to ask the federal government. I get my check every month from the government. This year I owe $1,369. I want to know how come. Expert says it's in the computer. Who put it in the computer? They've been taking out my money for 32 years. All of a sudden I owe the federal government $1,369. I'm not asking and blaming nobody. I just want to know where that extra money come from after they took out my $122 every month paid. Now, can anyone answer that? If you can't, the experts can't, because they said it's in the computer.
We're at the state level, but meet up with me afterward. We'll get your issues, and I'll fire it off to Larry Bouchon or Todd Young. We'll try to get them to answer it, but we probably can't answer that today.
I don't understand.
The gentleman's concerned. I want to read the Indiana Constitution, Section 9, under Article 4. It says the sessions of the General Assembly shall be held at the capital of the state. Okay, not in an outpost in Urbana. Okay, commencing on the Tuesday after the second Monday of January, in whatever years the General Assembly shall meet. They say we have heard their representatives. They come. Two different ones come every day, and consistently the message that we've been hearing from every one of them is since the strike began, the Democrats have repeatedly claimed the Republicans are attacking the middle class. It says they want to dismantle public schools, drive all workers to minimum wage for life, and completely dismantle public and private collective bargaining. Okay, I would challenge anybody in Urbana to give me one bill that we're not in Wisconsin, we're not in Idaho, we're not in Ohio. We have no bills that would dismantle collective bargaining at any level in Indiana. Not one. Even the right to work bill, that I would have been in a predicament, if that one would have come to a vote. Even the right to work bill did not impact collective bargaining at all. What it would have had it come to a vote, it would allow members that are represented by collective bargaining to have the option of paying their dues as a condition of employment. Okay, but it did not cancel any collective bargaining contract. It would have been aggressively anti-union leadership. But had that bill even come to a vote in the House, I don't believe it would have passed. I don't think it would have. Hey, I'm there. I talk to the members. I know who's voting for what. I don't believe it would have passed. You can laugh if you want.
I just did.
Well, all right. But it does not end any collective bargaining agreement. It allows the members of that union to decide if they're going to pay dues to the union or not, as a condition of employment. That's what right to work. But now, is there negative impacts to that? Yes. Are there union companies that would, if they had a mass exodus of their employees, would it bankrupt some of the companies? Yes. Would it probably have a net decrease in the companies that won't come to Indiana, with Indiana not being a right to work state? Would those people typically pay less money? Yes. So there's a lot of negatives to that bill. It's not a panacea. I don't believe the bill would have passed. The Senate said they weren't going to deal with it, so it wouldn't have become law. The governor said he didn't want to deal with it, so it wouldn't have become law. But that was the reason for walking out. Okay, but since then, then they had one bill that they walked out for. There were 22 other bills that got killed. Matt touched on a couple of them. Then they came back a few days later with 11 more bills that they thought needed to go before they were going to come back. One of them was the budget. They said, we can't deal with any of these 11 bills or we're not coming back. Well, how do we not deal with the budget? It's our constitutional duty. And they took an oath on November 16th to defend and protect the Indiana Constitution. And when they walked out, and they said the condition of them coming back is not dealing with the budget, how does that match with their constitutional duties that they swore to uphold? They wanted to get rid of the charter school bill. Charter schools are public schools. If Lagodi Elementary decided they wanted to convert to a charter school, and charter schools were enacted into law in 2001. They've been in the state of Indiana legally for 10 years. They were passed by a Democrat House of Representatives. They were signed into law by a Democrat governor. Charter schools are not a partisan issue. Okay? There's what, about 100 charter schools in the state? 62, okay. If a school in Martin County, or in Pike County, or DuBois County, an existing public school decided they wanted to convert to a charter, before the only people that could trigger that change was the school boards. What House Bill 1002 does is allows the parents to have a vote to switch that school building to a charter school, or the teachers. You don't have to shake your head. That's what 1002 does. It allows the parents or the teachers to trigger that change to a charter school. There's other details in it. Charter school, it lets the parents or the teachers switch that. Now, I'm not a charter school expert. Marianne Sullivan, a Democrat in the Indiana House of Representatives, has been on the charter school board in Indianapolis for 12 years. And has been working with charter schools in Indianapolis for 10 years that they've been in existence. She was one of the authors of that bill. It is not anti-public school because they are public schools. Another bill that they said had to go was House Bill 1003, the voucher bill. As the bill was filed in the House, I wouldn't have supported it because it would allow people up to $100,000 to get a voucher. That seems a little unreasonable. All right, the stated goal of the voucher program that's been implemented in other states is to allow families in failing inner-city urban schools an option to get those kids that are trapped in a failing public school and give them the opportunity to go someplace else where they're not convicted of a death sentence of a failed school. I'd like to see, before 1003 was done, I'd like to see that limitation be that it be students from a failing school. Right now, it doesn't have that stipulation. I'd like to see that added to it. But it's been driven down to where you've got to have, to get 90% of the public tuition support, you can get 90% of it if you're at poverty level. If you're at 150% of poverty level, you can get 50% of what the public school tuition support is. It's going to be limited if the Democrats would come back and see what amendments we've got ready and that we've discussed to make it a better bill. There are 20,000 school vacancies, or there's capacity for 20,000 students to move into. So the first year we've got a limit of 10,000 vouchers that can be approved by the state, and the second year 20,000. There's only 20,000 vacancies in empty, primarily Catholic schools, some Lutheran schools, in the entire state. So we've got a limit on how many students can apply. It's targeted at inner-city urban schools, and I'd like to see the addition of failing added to that. And then it's going to give those families and those kids an option to get out of a system of schools that have been failing for decades and give them some opportunities for a better life. And with the restrictions we put on it, I would be okay with the bill if those things go in. If they don't go in, and we're at the bill's original writing, it'd be pretty tough to swallow. Several of the bills that they said they were opposed to died on that second day of their walkout. One of the bills has already been signed into law. I don't know how we take that off the table when it's already been passed through the House, passed through the Senate. But they're basically down to 3 bills now: the budget, the voucher bill, and the last one they've got, I think, is Matt's right to a secret ballot in a union election. Who would want the employer to be able to have influence on those people without a secret ballot, or the union? It's the employee's right to have their vote be private. Now, if federal law changes, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to stop it if there's federal legislation that changes it. We have to have laws that are consistent with federal laws. But and I don't think there's currently any push on the federal level to change it. But if the Federal National Labor Relations Act would be changed and allow, non-secret ballot to be the law of the land, then we wouldn't be able to stop it. But currently, we're just trying to prevent abuse and tactics that are used by either side in those situations.
I'm sorry, I missed out on the opening remarks, but I do want to have this observation. We have a problem with memory. As far as the legislature in the last 2-4 years, we have had instances where elected officials were even denied to get up and speak in the legislature. Think about those things. Republicans were in a committee, along with their fellow Democrats. The Democratic leadership in that committee denied the people to even get up and speak. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about respect. We're talking about greed. And greed knows that, that's one of the sons of David sins. Folks, it's affecting our pocketbooks. It's affecting our life. We've got to get our respect under control. We've got to respect each other. We've got to work together. And we cannot be greedy. Because it's going to bankrupt us if we don't watch out. But I think the Republicans are trying to reach out to the Democrats, but I don't see that happening from the other side of the aisle. And I think that's what the whole problem is. It's about respect. So I have to go ahead and
Okay, thank you, Millie. Okay, then I want to comment on the charter school bill, so we'll do that. And the gentleman in the back, ask your question next. Thank you.
Thank you. Just very briefly, Mark is right. The charter school program was established in 2001 and Democrat House and the Democratic governor. The singular difference is it was not considered a public school at that time. Charter schools were established as a separate part of the educational system, not funded by the money from the public school system. And now today they are, and that's the difference. Charter schools today are part of the public school system, and as you create charter schools, and one of the, Mark read from the Constitution, Article 8, Section 1 of the Constitution is the only one that really truly addresses education and what the legislature's requirement is. And that is that we are supposed to provide, and Mark could probably read it, he's got it in his hand there. He can, yeah, let me have it, I want to read it so that it doesn't...
Pretty small.
Knowledge and learning generally diffused throughout a community being essential to the preservation of a free government. It shall be the duty of the General Assembly to encourage by all suitable means moral, intellectual, scientific, agricultural improvement, and to provide by law, this is what we're required to do, provide by law for a general and uniform system of common schools wherein tuition shall be without charge and equally open to all. That is our public school system. That is the only charge that we as a legislature have. Charter schools are not equally open to all.
Yes, they are.
Vouchers are not equally open to all. The schools that a voucher might be used for can be denied by the school. They do not have to accept students.
And not be denied if they're going to participate in vouchers.
And then they won't participate in vouchers.
That's good.
But we have a requirement to provide a free and open educational system for all kids. Why do we want to splinter the money that's available for education? Why do we want to take what money we've got and spread that out? why don't we, if we've got problems with our educational system, why don't we concentrate on this public school system that we have and try to improve it? And that's the only thing that I think is the big difference, is to make sure that we meet our constitutional requirement and provide a public education for every child in this state.